So Emily Impett, this is a biography about her. She is a social psychologist who normally studies relationships and pretty much everything that has to go into it. So schooling, she got her Bachelor's of Science in Psychology at James Madison University. And then she went on to get her master's in social psychology at the University of California in LA. And then she moved to the University of California at Berkeley to get her final PhD in social psychology as well. She is currently the professor and associate chair research in psychology at the University of Toronto in Mississauga. And she's also the director of relationships and well-being laboratory, which is where a lot of her research and my data came from, and she primarily researches relationships. So her topics normally include all of the emotion that goes into relationships and the motivation that comes from both sides of them, and the sexuality within non-platonic relationships. And so some common questions that she tries to answer in a lot of her research is: how can sacrifice shape relationships? What factors influence sexual relationships? And how do successful couples navigate transitions, commonly parenthood and moving and new jobs and such like that. So she currently is the director of a lab that researches and publicates these common questions. They've been working since 2001. They use a lot of different methods in order to collect their data, because it can kind of be hard to measure relationships, because there's not necessarily quantitative values that go along with it. And so they use experience sampling, so asking about experiences, survey research, so they can have a lot of the times couples tell them about how they're doing and things like that. And they also use interviews, so they'll sit down during an experiment or a study and they will talk both one-on-one and two-on-two, with the couples together. And she commonly collaborates with Dr. Mariko Biserman, who also works at her lab, Natalie Season, who is a grad student, and Christina Scrage, who is also a grad student working underneath her. So a few of her publication examples. So I tried to pick some of her publications that really show what all of her research is about. So one topic was What Fuels Passion, an integrative review of competing theories of romantic passion. Another is The Bittersweet Taste of Sacrifice, consequences for ambivalence and mixed reactions. Another is How Sacrifice Impacts the Giver and the Recipient, insights from approach avoidance motivational theory. And the final one that I researched intensively was The Sacrifice in Close Relationships, Motives, Emotions, and Relationship Outcomes. And all of these have additional authors as well. Some of her grad students, some of the people that work with her at her lab, but she was the main author of most of these studies. And her research is extremely important because it can help understand the dynamics of relationships, both platonic and romantic, and how we can improve these relationships in the real world with therapy and even at home things. And so her studies are extremely important in how we can improve just everyday relationships. And so here are a couple of my sources. One of them is her page kind of at the University of Toronto, and then another was her lab, her entire lab website, and then another was a few, this last one is just a list of lots of articles that came from research that had to do with her lab. So that's it. Thank you.